Greetings, and welcome to Amplified, where we amplify the politics and the policies that are impacting Black and brown communities. I'm Aisha Mills, and tonight we start things off by unpacking the power of restorative justice. According to the Center for Justice and Reconciliation, restorative justice is a theory that emphasizes repairing the harm caused by criminal behavior, which, when you think about it, that's technically what the American prison system claims to do, but doesn't actually do. That's where the practices and programs of restorative justice come in. The best way to respond to a crime is to identify and take steps to repair the harm, to keep both the victim and the offender engaged in a reconciliation process, and to ultimately transform the relationship between the community and government and key authorities. Experts in academic assessment of restorative justice is overall very positive, with studies suggesting that it makes offenders less likely to commit other crimes. It's also very common to see offenders give back to their communities in some way. And restorative justice can work in any arena, from schools, in criminal cases, or even in prison. And that is why I am so thrilled to have Reginald Dwayne Betts on Amplified with me tonight. He is a poet and lawyer, and he offers a firsthand account of the intended purpose of restoration. Thank you so much for being on our show. And I just want you to start off by, if you would, telling us about your restorative justice path and how reading and writing allowed you to express yourself.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question because I think one of the differences between my path and people's path, if they actually actively get to work with somebody who does restorative justice, is my path was not linear. You know, I was in prison. I went to prison when I was 16 years old for carjacking. And what I did was I discovered the way books allowed me to reflect on who I was and who I wanted to be. And so I spent the next 8.5 years reading everything I could get my hand on with the intention of becoming a writer. And I became a writer. But the truth is that the real restorative part of the work I do didn't happen until much, much later, when I was free in the world and I had to confront the sort of legacy of the hurt that I had caused my mom, other people in my community. And responding to that really had nothing to do with personal success. Responding to that had something to do with, what is my footprint going to be on my community going forward? So it's, what will people think about me as a man in the world? What will people think about me as a father? What will people think about me as a writer amongst writers? And ultimately, trying to really flesh out that question led me to start an organization called Freedom Reads, which asks, what can we do for people who are still inside to allow them to build themselves up to who they need to be and who they desire to be? And because books have always been central to who I am, we decided to do that with books. And so we build libraries in prisons.
And did you ever struggle with overcoming the stigma of having been incarcerated while branching out into a new medium as a writer and a poet?
I struggled with it 2 days ago. I mean, it's a constant struggle. You know, one of the things about it, I tell people, I came home, you know, didn't get jobs because I have a criminal record, couldn't live in certain apartment complexes because I have a criminal record, didn't get admitted to certain institutions because I had a criminal record. And even if I didn't get rejected from those spaces, the crimes that I committed as a child always became the thing I had to lead into many conversations with. And so I was constantly confronted. And, you know, one might say part of what it means to constantly be confronted with what you did is to constantly think about making amends. But we don't have a system that provides a parameter for what making amends looks like. And so what happens is people want to celebrate you if you accumulate some level of success. But what if you don't accumulate? What if all you want to do is work? What if all you want to do is be in your community and take care of your family and take care of your loved ones? And that means that people will always judge you by those crimes that you committed. People give me space now because I have a Yale law degree, because I won a MacArthur fellowship. But I mean, even 2-3 years ago, when I was a law student and I was graduating from law school, I was facing the likelihood that they might not allow me to practice law. And even having graduated, the reason why I invented my own job, why I created this organization to do this work, is because I know that it's not really likely that I'll be welcomed in other spaces where students from Yale Law School go to pursue their career.
And I don't want to let that slip by. All of your hard work promoting the humanity and rights of incarcerated people clearly didn't go unseen, because you were recently awarded the MacArthur Genius Grant Fellowship, which, bravo and congratulations. That is huge. And for those of you who are not familiar, it is a very prestigious award that helps support people who are really doing the work on the ground. And I wonder, like, have you had a chance to even just pause and reflect yet about how you've gotten to where you are as you're just moving and shaking and doing?
Probably not, but part of that is because, the award was announced late September. And then the whole month of October, we were gearing up to install the first library in the prison. And so the first prison we installed a library in was MCI Norfolk in Massachusetts. And that's the prison where Malcolm X, served time at. And one of the things that was beautiful about putting the first library in that place, and we put it in a cell in MCI Norfolk, is because it becomes a beautiful metaphor for the possibilities of books and of literature, and for what transformation really feels like. But the truth is, the work is it's challenging, and it's nonstop. And I'm busy trying to make sure we raise the funding to put 1,000 freedom libraries in prisons all across the country. So, hopefully I'll get an opportunity to kick back in my rocking chair and celebrate some of the things that I've done. But it's a lot of work to do before I even imagine relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love for you to just kind of back up for a moment and just share with folks a little bit more about the concept behind Freedom Reads and your nonprofit. So you're shipping thousands of books to prisons and giving those incarcerated access to micro libraries. So, tell us everything about this so that folks can really understand the work that you're doing there.
All right, so those pictures tell a lot of the narrative. You see all of those boxes. Those boxes of copies of Heavy. We've sent roughly 1,000 copies of Heavy to prisons all across the country. And we see book circles. So we'll send 20, 30, 40 copies of the book to 50 prisons all across the country, so that those brothers and those sisters and those young folks, that they could read in community. And that's one aspect of the project. The center of the project is the Freedom Library. And what the Freedom Library is I've been in prison cells, obviously, and when you're in your cell late at night and you're looking into the housing unit early in the morning and you're looking into the housing unit, all you see is desperation. All you see is concrete. You see nothing that is alive. Wood is alive. And so we wanted to build libraries and make them sit in places where people did their time, not off into some building that is largely inaccessible because there's always these competing interests that lead people not to go. We wanted it to be in a space that you see when you walk out of your cell or when you're looking out of your cell. Look at those places on the screen. It brings back some really painful memories. And I'm not saying that this beauty will solve all of that desperation and that sorrow, but I am saying that you put 500 books that have been carefully curated by me and by my team, but you put those books in a space and people could reach out. And I'm surrounded by books right now. I got John Edgar Wideman, which somebody that I was introduced to when I was in prison. I got Tony Kushner's Angels in America, a really fantastic book that says something powerful about the AIDS epidemic that is still upon us, and it's still a real thing in prisons in a way that is not in this country. And what it means to make that accessible to people on an everyday basis, I truly believe it's transformative. My formal education began in prison, and my formal education has largely ended at Yale Law School. The only person that believed that that was possible, the only people who believed that that was possible are those I did time with. I believe it's possible for them. And so I bring in the books that was my conduit to success. My team, we bring those books in the prisons because we believe it's possible for other folks.
It is not nothing that you just got a degree from Yale Law School, for sure. And I wonder, how you did that, and if you're giving advice to or supporting and nurturing others who are trying to have a similar path as you.
I did it. I hate to say it this way, but I did it largely because I couldn't get a job. And if I was going to be an unemployed convicted felon, I wanted to be an unemployed convicted felon with a Yale law degree. Now, in time, I realized that I went to law school because I wanted to find ways to help people I know get free. And so over the past 18 months or so, I've gotten 4 or 5 friends of mine out of prison, supporting them on their parole applications, writing them up for them, supporting them on their clemency applications, and just representing these guys and giving them a voice. And I've been fortunate to be successful, but I've also failed a lot. And so when I think about supporting others, I think about recognizing that I can't do it on my own. I've never done it on my own. And so when somebody wants to go to law school and they reach out to me for advice, I'm always giving advice. I'm always trying to mentor in the ways that I can. And I work with a team of brilliant law students, even now, representing people in their bids for clemency.
And you had to jump through your own hoops to deal with the Connecticut bar, etc. And so, you know, tell us a little bit about that and how you were able to move through.
You know, I cried. I got locked up when I was 16, and I thought I would go home the next day. And they told me I had to stay incarcerated to my next court date, which was probably January 2nd or 5th or something. And I wept, and that's the only time that I cried while I was incarcerated. And was deeply troubling is I knew that was me, and I caused that to happen. And I spent, you know, the next 20 years trying to make amends for that. And so you got to imagine, I'm 36 years old, 37 years old. I passed the bar. And when I get the letter informing me that I passed the bar, it also says that because of your crimes, we have to evaluate whether or not you had a character and fitness to be a lawyer. And I had done everything I imagined needed to be done. I mean, I had got appointed to a commission by President Barack Obama. I had taught in elementary schools and high schools and community colleges, at universities. I had gotten into law school. I had done all kinds of work in my community. And that didn't matter. They didn't ask me about that. They didn't know about it. They just said, you went to prison as a child, and therefore we are not sure if you could have this role. And I had to prove it to them, which felt like I was doing a parole packet for myself. It felt like I was doing the same thing that I do for my friends. And maybe that's part of the reason why I remember them. I remember some guys wrote me letters. A friend of mine told some of his homies about me. And I never met these dudes before. They were all locked up. They wrote me letters saying, dude, we are proud of you. You are setting an example for what it is like, for what we might become. This is before the board said that they might not allow me to be a lawyer. And so when I put my packet together, the first letters I put in that packet was from these men, because these men were congratulating me, saying why it mattered before the Connecticut bar examiners even said, no, wait a minute. And they, who will you have speak for you? I was like, I will have them speak for me.
Wow. Reginald Dwayne Betts, thank you so much for coming on Amplified tonight, for sharing your story. Congratulations to you and all you do, and thank you for all you do. Appreciate you.